Hey everyone, Al Fragnoli and Zach Sutty coming at you guys today. We've got Alex Yoh on with us. Alex, thanks for joining us. Alex is the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications for the Delaware Blue Coats, which is the G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. He's also an adjunct professor of sport management at Wilmington University. Alex, thanks for coming on with us today.
Al and Zach, couldn't think of a better way to spend my Sunday morning. Love talking to you guys, and thanks for having me.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to chat with you a little bit today, Alex, about breaking into the sports industry. We know it's an industry that a lot of people love to be a part of and want to get into. It can be a challenging industry to break into. You've got a plethora of experience in the industry from a variety of different angles. First question that we have for you and that we'd like you to answer is talk to us just a little bit about your career path. Give us a little bit of background and what led you into the role that you're currently in today.
Well, like so many folks in this industry, the first couple of years seem to be a roller coaster. It's an industry built on somewhat fleeting opportunities at times. And I think my experience was no different. You always hear that a real important trait is to have a willingness to move. And it kind of has become sort of cliche to hear, but it's actually true. And for me, it was, my first, I've been in the industry almost 12 years already now. And the first half of it was in like 6 different cities. So I started in Reading, Pennsylvania with the Philadelphia Phillies AA team as a cameraman. Was my first job in sports. And you kind of build on those experiences and you foray those into internships and opportunities. And I got my first assistantship with Pittsburgh Pirates, where I met 2 future podcast stars. I think their names were Zach and Al. A couple other guys too, good people. But yeah, the Pirates for 2 years in Bradenton, Florida, and then from there you get an opportunity and you do enough good work and you impress the right people to get that second bounce of the ball. And I bounced to Milwaukee after that. Worked at Marquette University for the basketball team for a few years. And then I had spent 4 years in Boston, getting my undergraduate degree and working as a local reporter focused on sports. At the same time, I was a promotions assistant for the Celtics and handed out rally towels and bobbleheads and anything I could do while I was in Boston. And it kind of became like a mix-up and a how much mileage can you get sort of game in those early years to cram all that stuff on your resume. And that's what I did. And always thought that if I could package all this stuff up to the point where I looked halfway decent on paper, then I could actually perhaps start trying to choose where I move next and not just necessarily follow the opportunity 100%. And I always wanted to get home to the Philadelphia area. And an entry-level job opened up with the Sixers organization. And about my second year at Marquette, I had been all these places and felt that, I could actually try to write my ticket a little bit. I never really expected to even get a call back on that, because the Sixers job was actually like a dream job. Like if you told me where you want to be and by the end of your career, like the top of my list was I would want to have worked for the Sixers. And all of a sudden, I fortunately got a job just a few years in, so I had to sort of reshuffle my bucket list, so to speak. But I think my kind of journey all over the place is so ununique to a lot of my colleagues, because it really is all about kind of grinding it out. And that attitude really never stops, to be honest with you, because it is so competitive, even once you're kind of in it for a while. And I think more so than some other industries, the line out the door for your job is always seemingly pretty long. And I think it just goes to the fact that it really isn't a job, and everyone wants to get in because it's so rewarding. And I've said for a long time, like, we get to have a lot of fun, and not to say it's not hard, and it is very hard. It's hard work, it's crazy hours, and somewhat unforgiving at times. But at the end of the day, when the lights go out and the PA announcer starts announcing the starting lineup, and the pyrotechnics go off, and you look around and say, "Hey, I'm at the office right now. Are you kidding me?" Like that's I think why we're all sort of in it, and what makes it kind of magical. So, a long way of saying that those early years are so often a jumble of opportunity, and that willingness to move cliche is actually very true. And for me too, and I'll close with this on this thought, it's the people you meet. Like, all those stops that I made, it was, I picked up at least half a dozen really good friends, not just in terms of industry friends, but actually like life friends. And I think that's what's so cool about sports, is that it kind of binds people together for life. When you work and you grind and you wake up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning to pull tarp with people in minor league baseball, like, there's something special about that. And I think those are the ingredients that kind of have gotten me to where I am today.
So, Alex, it's been almost 8 years since the three of us have been in Florida together. It was 4 short months I was there, and the friendship has lasted this long, and I know it's going to last much longer. You talked about your early roles in sports, and you touched on this a little bit, but what are the connections that you made that were important for you throughout your career? A lot of industries, as an adjunct professor at Wilmington, we're taught or told in sports management classes, network, get out there. Don't say no to an opportunity. It might not be the opportunity that you want at the time, but it could lead into something better that you didn't even know existed for you. So how did your networking, you talked about friendships, how did that land you where you're at today, and how does your career progress because of those connections?
Well, I think 2 things come to mind sort of in that wheelhouse in terms of networking. The first is that I think in college and in pre-college, I heard a lot about the term "get your foot in the door." And I actually found out once I got my first job that a lot of employers actually don't necessarily want to hear that. And what they'd rather hear is that you're not necessarily you want to get your foot in the door, but you actually want to use your skills to contribute. And I think it lends itself to the idea of getting enough people to understand what those skills are, whether they're tangible skills or they're people skills, good people skills. Like, that's what really networking for me has become. Not so much about the phrase, "it's all about who you know," because I actually think that's wrong. It's actually who knows you. Like, to me, it's, if you're coming out of school and your number one goal is to know as many people as you can, it's really not going to get you too far if none of those people know what you can do and know who you are. So I've always gone about networking and the relationship building as a few but mighty approach, and trying to connect with people that will vouch on your behalf. And that's so much more important to me than just sort of general blanket networking. And it's good to the surface level LinkedIn connections. There's no harm in that. But where I think students and recent graduates and interns, the time is better spent in cultivating those mentor-mentee type relationships that are far fewer in terms of quantity. But again, that idea that it's not about who you know, it's actually about who knows you. You could have two influencers in the industry, just two of them that know you really well, that get you the right opportunities. And it's not to say the more people you know isn't great, it is. But I do try to tell my students and folks that work with me that the networking piece has to have a little bit more meaning to it than just handing out business cards and shaking hands. Like that's base level stuff, and that's important. But true advancement, true character building, and skill development, that all comes from new opportunity. And I truly believe that new opportunity comes when people know what you can do and they give you a chance to do it.
Alex, you alluded to this a little bit earlier about the sports industry really being a fun industry and a very rewarding industry to be in. What do you enjoy most about the work that you're doing? And is there anything really right now that you're excited to be working on?
It's the reason I'm in it, Al. It really is. It's I mentioned before, there's long hours. There's really is no hour limit some days. It's inconsistent in terms of what you're going to get from day to day, but that's kind of why I like it. Like I don't think by any means it's a 9-to-5 desk job. And to me, that's a positive thing, because every day I come to the office, it's ultimately my job is to use sport to bring people either happiness or opportunity. And that's a fun thing to do. Sort of simply speaking, we say in our office now, we kind of coined the phrase that basketball has power. And what we mean by that is whether it's sending one of our players into a classroom to read to kindergartners or young kids, or it's putting on a show at one of our games that has nothing to do with basketball and is really all about entertaining a family of 4. Like that's ultimately what my responsibility is and what my team responsibility is. And to get to do that in a way that is not, terribly in your face. It's a little bit subtle. Like you're not. It's a carnival disguised as a basketball game sometimes for us. And I think that's what makes it really fun and special. And that especially in the minor leagues, whether it's minor league baseball or the G League or whatever, my favorite part about all that is that very thing, that we can be an outlet, we can be entertainment, but we can also be philanthropists in our community by doing really concentrated but impactful things using the sport of basketball to sort of lift up those messages.
So, Alex, what did you wish you knew, when you started your career, and what piece of advice would you give those entering sports right now?
That's an excellent question. I think what I wish I knew early on is that you don't necessarily have to have a 100% focus in one skill area, especially when you start. And it spins off of the idea that we have very focused college majors in this country. And sometimes that's warranted, certainly. In the medical field, of course, law, those are very specific degrees. But if you're trying to get in the sports business, a narrow focus can be a little bit crippling out the gate, I think. For example, my degree from Emerson was in broadcasting. I haven't broadcasted an inning, a quarter, a half, even a pregame show in 10 years. And I say that because I think I got into it and it was only that first couple months where I thought that I had to like do something that had to do with what I studied. But when I took a step back, I realized that the skills that went into building my broadcast journalism degree could be used across a wide platform. The communication piece, the writing piece, the storytelling piece, which I use every day as a marketing person now. Like, how do you tell a story in the marketplace using commercials and billboards and flyers and player appearances? Like, I think that it's all rooted in my journalism degree, but not in a very obvious way. And I wish I could tell my younger self that sooner, that I didn't have to be so like focused on that. Because I honestly, I think it's true that a lot of students come out spending a ton of money on tuition for some degree that they get, and they kind of have blinders on to the other skills that they either naturally have or could naturally sort of absorb along the way. And to be honest with you, I learned that most employers don't really care what you studied in school. They're more interested in what you bring to the table as a teammate and as a professional. So I think that's what I would tell my younger self and try to instill more in folks coming to the system now.
We know you provided a lot of good insight on breaking into the sports industry. We know it's a tough industry to get into, but a very, very rewarding industry, as you mentioned. So we thank you for your time today with us. We wish you the best of luck as the NBA tries to resume a season here. Hopefully it happens at the end of this month. But we know you're a busy guy. We wish you the best of luck with the NBA and the G League going forward. Thanks again, Alex.